Have you ever noticed how the world conspires to fragment your focus? The gentle vibration of a notification, the endless scroll of social media, the perpetual ping of emails arriving like digital raindrops. In this cacophony of stimuli, something precious is being quietly eroded. Your capacity for deep presence. What begins as innocent diversion gradually transforms into a state of perpetual partial attention, where your awareness skims across the surface of life without ever truly diving deep. This fragmentation doesn't just steal your time, it reshapes your consciousness, leaving you simultaneously connected to everything and intimately engaged with nothing. If this resonates with you, I invite you to join our community of mindful seekers. Your presence here is already a step toward reclaiming what matters. The modern world has engineered an unprecedented experiment in human attention. Your ancestors never navigated an environment designed with such precision to capture and monetize every moment of your awareness. Each notification, each headline, each video that autoplays as you scroll. These are not accidents, but carefully calibrated interruptions designed to hijack your most precious resource, your attention. What we often fail to recognize is that attention is not merely a practical resource, it is the very foundation of our lived experience. When your attention fragments, your sense of self fragments with it. Think about the last time you sat down to accomplish something meaningful. Perhaps you opened your laptop with clear intention, only to find yourself 20 minutes later deep in a maze of open tabs, your original purpose long forgotten. This wasn't simply wasted time, it was a disconnection from your center of gravity, a subtle erosion of your self-awareness. This fragmentation creates a peculiar modern suffering. You might find yourself exhausted at day's end, yet unable to identify what exactly has drained you. The answer lies in what neuroscientists call attention residue, the cognitive burden left behind each time your focus shifts. Every time you move from task to notification, to email to social media feed, you leave behind a trace of mental energy that never fully returns. Your nervous system, designed for periods of focused attention followed by genuine rest, instead remains in a state of perpetual, low-grade activation. Consider how this manifests in your daily experience. You sit down to dinner with loved ones, yet part of your awareness hovers near your phone, wondering what messages might be arriving. You attempt to read a book, but after years of scrolling feeds, sustained attention feels almost uncomfortable, like an underused muscle straining against unfamiliar resistance. In meetings, you appear present while your mind drifts between the conversation, your to-do list, and the emails accumulating in your inbox. This divided consciousness doesn't merely dilute your effectiveness, it fundamentally alters your relationship with reality. When attention scatters, your capacity for deep thinking scatters with it. Complex ideas require sustained focus. Meaningful relationships demand genuine presence. Inner growth necessitates the courage to sit with yourself undistracted, to face the uncomfortable truths that quick diversions allow you to avoid. What makes this particularly insidious is how normal it has become. The average person now touches their phone over 2,600 times daily. We spend approximately 1/3 of our waking hours on our devices. This isn't merely a habit, it's a fundamental restructuring of human experience. And like fish unaware of the water they swim in, we've become largely unconscious of how profoundly this reshapes our consciousness. Yet there is a deeper cost that remains largely unexamined. Each time you surrender your attention to whatever shouts loudest for it, you implicitly tell yourself that your inner compass, your self-directed intentions matter less than external demands. Over time, this creates a subtle but corrosive form of self-abandonment. You begin to lose trust in your capacity to determine what deserves your attention, gradually surrendering your autonomic navigation system to algorithms and urgencies designed by others. Have you considered that perhaps the greatest act of self-respect in our time is the simple act of protecting your attention? That the courage to remain undistracted might be a form of spiritual resistance against forces that would reduce you to a series of predictable responses. The path forward isn't about demonizing technology. It's about reclaiming the authenticity of your own attention. It begins with the radical act of noticing when your focus splinters, noticing what pulls it away, noticing the subtle anxiety that arises when you attempt to stay with one thing for an extended period. This noticing itself begins to dissolve the unconscious patterns that have kept you fragmented. Is it possible that in a world engineered to distract you, the revolutionary act might be simply to pay attention, deeply, completely, with your whole being, to what matters most? There exists a moment, infinitesimal yet infinite, between the notification's arrival and your response to it. This moment contains more power than we typically recognize. It is the doorway to what I call micro-mindfulness, tiny interventions that reset your nervous system and reclaim your sovereign attention. Consider this. I was once helping my 7-year-old nephew learn to ride a bicycle in Central Park. The cacophony of New York surrounded us. Honking taxis, chattering tourists, street performers with amplifiers. The constant hum of a city that never quiets. As he wobbled unsteadily, I noticed his eyes darting everywhere. To the rollerblader approaching from the left, to the ice cream vendor calling out, to the golden retriever bounding across the lawn. Each time his attention scattered, his balance followed. "Look where you want to go," I told him. "Your bicycle follows your eyes." He tried again, this time fixing his gaze steadily ahead on the path. His wobbling decreased. His confidence grew. Then a street performer's saxophone blared particularly loudly, pulling his attention sideways. Down he went again. After helping him up, I asked him to try something different. "Before you start pedaling," I said, "take 3 deep breaths and feel your hands on the handlebars. When something loud happens, don't try to ignore it. Notice it, name it in your mind, and then gently bring your attention back to the path." This subtle shift, acknowledging the distraction rather than fighting it, transformed his experience. Within 20 minutes, he was riding independently, navigating the sensory chaos with newfound resilience. He had discovered the space between stimulus and response, the micro-moment where freedom resides. Your adult life presents a more complex version of this same challenge. Your digital environment operates much like that chaotic park, engineered to pull your attention in countless directions simultaneously. And like my nephew initially did, you might find yourself constantly wobbling and falling as your focus splinters across the landscape of demands. This is where micro-mindfulness becomes essential. These are not lengthy meditation sessions, but momentary resets, brief interventions that interrupt the automatic pattern of reactivity. The practice begins with a simple recognition. Most of what we call distraction is actually a pattern of unconscious response. The notification sounds, and before any conscious thought occurs, your hand reaches for the device. The email arrives, and your attention immediately abandons whatever you were doing to address it. Creating space in these moments doesn't require heroic willpower. It requires presence. The simple act of noticing the pull before surrendering to it. Try this experiment for one day. When your phone vibrates or a notification appears, pause. Take one conscious breath. Ask yourself, is this truly urgent? Does this deserve my attention right now? This brief intervention, lasting perhaps 3 seconds, is enough to disrupt the automatic pattern and restore conscious choice. Another powerful micro-practice involves what neuroscientists call attention anchoring. Throughout your day, establish brief moments where you deliberately bring your full attention to a single sensory experience. Feel the weight of your body against the chair. Notice the temperature of the air against your skin. Listen to the most distant sound you can perceive. These momentary anchors, practiced regularly, strengthen your capacity to direct attention intentionally rather than reactively. Perhaps the most transformative micro-practice involves transforming transitions. The moments between activities, between finishing an email and beginning a meeting, between completing one task and starting another, typically become vulnerability points where distraction easily enters. Instead, use these transitions as opportunities for reset. Before moving to the next activity, take 3 conscious breaths. Feel your feet on the floor. Set a clear intention for what follows. This practice, requiring mere seconds, creates powerful boundaries between different modes of attention. What makes these micro-interventions so powerful is that they directly address how the nervous system responds to stimulation. When you repeatedly react to every notification, your sympathetic nervous system, responsible for fight or flight responses, remains mildly activated throughout the day. This creates a state of vigilance where focus becomes increasingly difficult. By contrast, these momentary pauses activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which supports states of calm, clarity, and connection. This isn't merely about productivity. It's about reclaiming the integrity of your consciousness. Each time you consciously choose where your attention goes, rather than surrendering it to whatever demands it most loudly, you strengthen what psychologists call your internal locus of control. The felt sense that you, not external circumstances, determine your experience. Have you noticed how differently you feel on days when you've been reactive versus days when you've been intentional with your attention? How the quality of your thinking, your emotional stability, even your sense of meaning, seem to shift depending on how scattered or focused your awareness has been. What might become possible if you treated these micro moments of choice not as trivial daily habits, but as profound opportunities to reclaim the sovereignty of your consciousness? There exists a profound relationship between how you steward your attention and your sense of self-respect. This connection reveals itself not in grand declarations, but in the seemingly small choices that compose your days. Consider how you begin your mornings. Do you reach for your phone before your feet touch the floor, immediately surrendering your fresh attention to whatever the world has deposited in your inbox overnight? Or do you claim those first waking moments for yourself, for breath, for setting intention, for connecting with what matters most before connecting with everything else? This isn't about morality or productivity. It's about recognizing that attention is the canvas upon which your life is painted. The quality of that attention determines the vibrancy of the resulting image. I'm reminded of a lesson I learned while recovering from a minor surgery several years ago. Confined to bed for several days, I initially saw this as an opportunity to catch up on emails, social media, and all the digital backlogs that accumulate in busy lives. By the end of the first day, despite having barely moved, I felt exhausted, irritable, and strangely empty. On the second day, on the advice of a friend, I tried something different. I put my devices in another room. I kept a journal, a novel, and a sketch pad nearby instead. I allowed myself to experience the discomfort of boredom when it arose, resisting the urge to immediately fill it. Something remarkable happened. After an initial period of restlessness, my mind began to settle. Ideas that had been germinating beneath the surface of my awareness emerged into clarity. I remembered dreams from nights before. I found myself writing poetry for the first time in years. The difference wasn't in the external circumstances. I was still confined to the same bed in the same room. The difference was in how I had arranged my attention. By protecting it from fragmentation, I had created the conditions for depth to emerge. This experience revealed something crucial. Protecting your attention isn't self-indulgence. It's self-respect. It's the recognition that your consciousness deserves better than to be reduced to a series of reactions, better than to be hijacked by whatever algorithm has been most cleverly designed to capture it. In practical terms, this means establishing what I call attention contracts with yourself. These are clear agreements about when and how you'll engage with potentially distracting technologies. Perhaps you decide that the first hour of your day belongs exclusively to you. No emails, no social media, no reactive demands. Perhaps you designate certain days as deep work days, where notifications remain disabled and meetings are declined. Perhaps you establish technology-free zones in your home, the dinner table, the bedroom, where attention can settle into deeper rhythms. The specific arrangements matter less than the underlying commitment that your attention is valuable, enough to be consciously protected rather than unconsciously surrendered. This protection extends beyond digital distractions. It includes learning to say no to commitments that fragment your focus without sufficient return. It includes creating physical environments that support sustained attention rather than undermining it. It includes the courage to disappoint others occasionally rather than constantly disappointing yourself through chronic overcommitment. The challenge is that these boundaries often trigger resistance, both from others who have grown accustomed to your immediate availability and from within yourself. There's a peculiar discomfort that arises when we first begin protecting our attention. Like a muscle long unused, the capacity for sustained focus initially feels strained when exercised. The notifications we don't immediately check create a low-grade anxiety. The emails we don't immediately answer trigger subtle guilt. Working through this discomfort is essential. Each time you maintain a boundary despite the pull to abandon it, you strengthen your attention muscle. Each time you tolerate the temporary anxiety of an unchecked notification rather than surrendering to it, you reclaim a bit of your autonomy. What gradually emerges is a different relationship with your own consciousness, one characterized not by fragmentation and reactivity, but by coherence and intention. You begin to experience the luminous quality of attention that remains gathered rather than scattered, the clarity that emerges when thinking can unfold in sustained arcs rather than interrupted fragments. Ask yourself, what do your current habits around attention reveal about your relationship with yourself? Do they reflect a valuing of your consciousness, a respect for your finite capacity for focus? Or do they reflect a pattern of self-abandonment, where your most precious resource is given away to whatever demands it most insistently? What might change if you approach the stewardship of your attention with the same seriousness with which you approach the stewardship of your financial resources or physical health? As you consider your own relationship with attention and distraction, I invite you to explore these questions with unflinching honesty. When was the last time you experienced a state of complete absorption in a single activity, where time seemed to both expand and disappear? What conditions made that possible? What specific distractions most frequently pull you from your center? Is it social media notifications, breaking news alerts, the subtle pressure of others' expectations? Something else entirely? How do you feel on days when your attention has been particularly fragmented compared to days when you've maintained greater focus? What differences do you notice in your mood, your thinking quality, your sense of meaning? If you could reclaim even 30 minutes of truly undistracted attention each day, how would you choose to invest it? What does this choice reveal about what matters most to you? What is one small, concrete step you could take tomorrow to begin creating more space between stimulus and response in your life? The battle for your attention is, at its core, a battle for your very self. In a world engineered to fragment consciousness, the revolutionary act is to remain whole. This isn't about perfection, it's about intention. It's about recognizing that each moment you reclaim from distraction is a moment returned to your actual life. Begin small. Perhaps it's a morning ritual protected from digital intrusion. Perhaps it's one meal each day, eaten without screens. Perhaps it's a specific time when notifications are silenced. Whatever form it takes, let it be a contract you make with yourself, a commitment to treating your attention with the reverence it deserves. As you practice this reclamation, notice how it ripples outward. Notice how your conversations deepen when you're fully present for them. Notice how your work gains dimension when given your undivided focus. Notice how your relationship with yourself transforms when you consistently choose presence over distraction. If this exploration has resonated with you, I invite you to share it with others who might benefit. The cultivation of attention is not merely an individual practice, but a collective possibility, a way of being that we can help each other. Remember and sustain. Remember that in each moment of choice, you're not just deciding where to place your attention, you're deciding who you're becoming. See you next time. Keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and your spirit evolving.